Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
And hey there, everybody. How you doing? This is Rob Charney with John Manajastic and Jonathan Charney in the corner kibitzing as he likes to do. And this is Opinion versus Opinion on Old Guy Tech TV News 44. Very important. And right off the bat, if you're watching, thank you very much. Do me a favor, hit that donate button. If we don't get some more donate, we won't be on much longer. So do that right now while you're watching the show. Thank you for watching. So here we are. John, how you doing? Doing good?
Outside of my usual trials and tribulations, and school begins on Monday, which means I'll be back to some form of employment.
Yes.
You saw the picture on Facebook?
Yeah.
Just older. Still good.
We should reproduce that one. That's a good. But you've got to get that menacing Charlie look. That's what we did at the time. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, inside joke, it's on John's Facebook page. It's a picture I took 30-some years ago. So
75, that would have been 38.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. We were both much younger then. So anyway, thank you for watching, and we're going to start out today talking about something that many of us have an opinion one way or the other, and it doesn't seem to be a lot of middle ground. And that has to do with voter identification. It seems to me that we have a serious situation in this country where we quite possibly have, besides the dead people and all the fake voting, we have a situation where we have citizens that are voting or taking place in voting that
alleged fake voting
that don't have birth certificates or any way of proving that they're citizens of the United States, but yet
alleged fake voting. The actual voter fraud cases in the country,
they get to vote.
Minuscule.
Yeah. How do you know they're minuscule? There's no way to pick their number.
There in the last presidential election, there were many allegations of voter fraud, and they were investigated, and they just weren't.
Well, first of all, by that time, we had the Obama administration looking into it. That's the fox in the hen house.
I don't know. We are definitely running along the edges of post Civil War Reconstruction attitudes on things like this. I mean, you asked me if the Australians required where voting is required. You must vote.
Right.
If they, man, you're just sign up on a voter roll. And they have Indonesians, they have Mid-Easterns, they have Eastern Europeans, they have Greek television like we have Hispanic television.
Right.
Here. Right. They have a very large immigration across the board. All right. Whether it be in Europe, whether it be in Australia, whether it be in the United States, not so much in Canada. And Mexico, is very stringent in their laws about immigration and voting. I just, this is where I'm at about it. And we could fit this argument, and I reposted to you the last time. You want everybody to show their ID to vote, but you don't want to register your firearms. From my point of view, I register my car. I register to vote. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to register my firearm because you might come and get it.
Yeah, well,
so it's a question of
the amount of people that don't register firearms is like you're minuscule because almost all states have.
California will have the most stringent firearms law in the country probably within the next 90 days. And we'll get into that because you brought that up. I want to talk about it because you're going to see civil disobedience like you don't believe within the population in California. I have no problem with that. Yeah. I do believe that the only way to get anything done in this country, no matter what the Democratic process involves civil disobedience, orderly civil disobedience,
Right.
and demonstration.
Right. Well, we did it in the 60s and 70s, and it's probably going to happen again in another manner. But all right, so we have a lot of things on the table to talk about. Let's go back to this whole idea of trying to show ID to vote. And you know what? You and I touched on this a little bit the last time, and I think you remember I told the story of watching my father, and this would have been in the late 50s. Going to register the vote, and he had to show up, and he had to sit down at a table, he had to show his ID, and he had to read a paragraph in English to know that he was literate. In California, right. To prove that he was literate. So we have gone way extreme to the other side. Now you don't have to prove anything. You can sit at home and register to vote.
You can get your ballot in Spanish.
You get your ballot in
Spanish, Chinese,
25
Korean.
Different languages.
Yeah,
that's right.
Same ones that we have EL in the schools for. All of those languages are covered in the ballot.
Right. Right. So
including
anyway,
Hmong.
So the question is, to get a driver's license, these seem people that don't have to show that they're citizens to vote, but yet want to drive a car. They have to come up with some form of ID. Is that not right? Passport, something.
No. To get a driver's license in California, and I'm not clear about this. I should have looked at the DMV rules. I don't think that you have to be a citizen. You don't have to, or a permanent legal resident,
right,
because of the mandatory insurance that doesn't require you to be a permanent legal resident or citizen to insure yourself, but to be
Correct.
Insured, you must have a driver's license.
Exactly.
So
That's
it's
point.
kind of like the issue of the mandate, which came first, the chicken or the egg. The fact of the matter is that insurance premiums and insurance rates are lower the more people that are actually in the insured
in the pool.
pool.
Right, absolutely, I agree with that. But my point is they're showing, and you're right, you don't have to be a citizen, nor would I care if they're a citizen or not to get a driver's license. I want to make sure that they have a driver's license and they have auto insurance. I want to make sure of those two things. That's all I care about.
Considering that we allow trucks from Mexico up here knowingly,
yes,
then it's
So
it's got to be. They can't be driving a rig with
exactly. So some form of ID has to be passed, right? Even if they're a citizen of Mexico, they bring their Mexican papers to the DMV to show ID. Okay, and so here we are on this voter situation, where literally, and I'm not saying that necessarily that the numbers are big right now, John. I think my point is there is the potential, just the potential, for a large amount of voter fraud because of the fact it's so easy to vote. Now, it's a two-edged sword. It's a two-edged sword. Yes, we want it easy to vote. I want people to vote. I think everybody needs to vote. It doesn't matter what I want them to vote my way, but it doesn't matter. I just want them to vote. And so here we are.
I just had a visual about voting your way, but go ahead.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Maybe I'm working on you. But the point is I want people to vote, and I want it easy enough for people to vote, yet I think we need some kind of check and balance situation here.
Well, and at that point, and I didn't do my homework totally on this, I should have pulled up the California state, because, again, here's where the kerfuffle comes on a couple of levels. Number one, especially in a federal presidential election, still, the election is conducted by the states, so that there's no the electoral college is the check and balance to the states running the election. So each state, as we know, since the Supreme Court knocked down, what is it?
Right. Yeah.
Division 5,
right.
Article 5 of the Voting Rights Act. That North Carolina just passed a seemingly very restrictive requirements. Texas immediately upon Article 5 not being held up by the Supreme Court. They just passed the law that was struck down by Article 5 when it was there. Here and therein lies the issue. I think just like the Internal Revenue Service, like the tax code, we really, some of these things that are deeply flawed, that over the years have gotten maligned by a law that was not updated to keep up with modern society and modern needs. I think that we need to look at something about just changing, modifying the electoral process to something that will more effectively get people there. Now, in that could be more registration. I also think the second Tuesday after the third Monday of January for the date of the election is stupid.
As a history teacher, you should know why that particular date was chosen.
I don't care. I think it's stupid.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I don't understand why we don't vote on a weekend when the majority of people are off of work. So
most industrialized nations do.
Yeah.
Because it's just, we have a 5-day work week, and it just applies.
It just makes sense. Yeah.
The other thing that I know in my heart, knowing you for most of my life, you just want it to be a fair and equitable system and try and close the loopholes.
That's it. That's exactly it.
There are people, though, that want to preclude obvious groups that stood at part of the North Carolina law has got different restrictions on students, and you could register when you were 17 if you were going to be 18. You could pre-register. You could there's all kinds of ways. I mean, in California, I registered because I have a driver's license, and I choose to say, it's motor voter in California is one form of registering. The essence of the matter is, and where I have not a problem, I would say that on the base level, you and I resonate on this issue. I want it to be fair. I want it to be equitable. I want it to be accountable.
Yes.
Just like I want the Internal Revenue Service to be all of those things.
Right.
I do not want to see laws that, when you read them, are very, very targeted about not recognizing the current diversity of ethnicities and cultures in this country, and that design to exclude people from their constitutional right to vote.
I have a kind of a random question. Can you be on a jury duty as a non?
No.
Can you do jury duty as a non-legal citizen?
Well, if you're registered to vote, anybody that's able to be registered to vote can serve on a jury.
Well, since you're like required, I just because it's California, it's via registering at DMV, right? It's not via.
Or you can sign up outside the market when they're doing
registration
but I'm saying for jury duty.
There are multiple paths.
I was going to say what they do.
Because city clerk.
Because jury duties
register.
Because jury duty's tied to driver's license or something, right? That's how you get in the pool.
Yes.
That's what they say.
My question is, if you do that, then tie that with why can't they? If they can get you like 12 people in there, why can't they tie that to the Well, if you're in this pool, you already know.
You know how many people. The court system itself is already saying, "Hey, we don't have enough jurors as it is because every one of us want to duck jury duty." I've known very few people in my life that ever said, "Oh, I just can't wait to sit on a jury."
Well, at the same time, Rob, I will share with you the only time in my life I was ever called for jury duty was in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And I responded to, and Jonathan, if you ever go to jury duty, there is a rather rigorous form that you must fill out before you go to the jury room and are considered for voir dire. That asks you many questions.
Is that why they kicked you out, John?
I've my first time
in essence it is. But here's the story, and I can't tell all the details of the story. I was, they wanted me. I went in for voir dire. I had responded to a question that for lack of not wanting to go into the story, something was diverted when I was 18 years old. Therefore, it went from being in the judicial system to going to the probation system. So it never ever happened. But for some reason, it said, "Have you ever been arrested for?" And I decided to be honest and say, "Well, yeah." Then Judge in Gwadir decided she wanted to know about that.
Oh.
And the interaction you could have recorded and probably put on a Cheech and Chong album. I mean, the courtroom was in stitches, and the district attorney, I'm out of here, and I saw him out at the steps afterwards, and I said to him, I said, "Mate, I was all for convicting that guy. I mean, you know, whenever he gets angry, he pulls out a gun and shoots at people. I don't want him on the streets." "Well, yeah, but you're a personality that could have switched." And I went, "All right, whatever you say. I have never, ever been called for jury duty again."
Well, I don't think
I've had a license.
I think it's coincidental. Jonathan went for jury duty.
Well, I've been
recently.
called 3 or 4 or 5 times at this point. First time I was in transition between junior and senior year of high school, and I told the judge, I'm still in school, and I don't think that you'd really want a high schooler on the panel. He wasn't particularly fond of my my comment. The most recent time is because I knew one of the attorneys.
Well, then you're off.
No, surprisingly enough, okay, that's not the case. I served, well, first of all, you may not remember, but I served a year on the grand jury. I was on the El Dorado County grand jury for a year, which I said to the court clerk at that time, should that not just let me never have to serve again? I mean, I did my civil duty for a whole stinking year. But anyway, I was actually chosen after this to sit on a jury on a drug case, and I knew both the defense attorney and the prosecutor, who both said, "I don't know anybody fairer than Rob Charney." So that didn't work.
Well, I mean, and you know as well as I do that the legal system is so conditional and fickle.
Yeah.
As to what's okay, what's not okay. If you're not living, if you're not living in L.A., if you're. But my issue, as we get into that, and back to the voter issue. I like you. I think the reason we decided to do this here opinion thing is that I guess dogmatically on issues we disagree, but on things of fairness, equality, and openness, we don't disagree at all.
Yeah, I know.
I just want it to be a fair and equitable system. And if there are bad guys, if there are people out there that shouldn't be, then they shouldn't be if they don't qualify.
The thing that bothers me, John, about this is that this voter identification, they're making it to be a racist or akin to a poll tax, and supposedly we're disenfranchising minority voters by requiring them to have ID.
We got a black guy for president. Does that actually count?
Well, but that's what they're saying. They're saying to us, this is going to affect mainly minorities, and they're going to be, and those that are in the country illegally, they won't vote. Well, gosh, do you think that may be the point?
Let me roll back to Jonathan's kibitz. We don't have a black guy for president. We have a mulatto for a president.
Well,
yeah, but he doesn't say that.
He's not even he may be half African. He's half African because his father maybe had a green card because he was a professor or a educational visa. But when people say we have a black guy for president, the true answer to this is no, we don't.
Well, here's the way the rest of the world
works. We have
works.
a president that says he is.
Well, here's the way it works.
Go ahead, Jonathan. Kick in there. Let's go. Hurry up. I'll turn your mic up. Get your point.
He's fine.
Go.
Whether it's fair or not, this is the way the rest of the world looks at it. He looks black. Is he completely? I don't really care. The rest of the world says he's a little dark, so he's black. He has African roots. His father's from Kenya. That's pretty much the way it works.
The gene pool started in Africa for all of us.
Yes, I know, but I'm talking about the average, everyday citizen doesn't care about the nuances of his family history. Nobody really cares the fact his mom was white, his dad is Kenyan. I doubt he even cares, because that's...
Oh, no, he cares big time.
Really?
Oh,
no.
sure.
It was significant. He is the first president of color.
Yeah, that's what
in
I'm
the
saying.
history
Yeah.
of the United States.
But here's
also, Jonathan, just to intercede, when you assume that people in Europe and people in Asia and Africa perceive color the same way we do in the United States, you are going down a very slippery slope.
Okay, you're right. I should say Americans. Generally Americans, But I have a solution for this. And my solution was, if you don't have a driver's license or an ID and you need a birth certificate, make some sort of thing so these people can get it, so they can get an ID, and mandatory, everybody has, whether it's an identification card, a driver's license, tie it to that, and then boom, and then give it all for free. No money, no money.
But how do you start that? How do you start that step? I mean, if you show up, I know in California you can get an ID, not a driver's license, but you still have to show something,
and you have to pay for it.
Yeah, and pay for it, and don't forget, the minute you do that too, Social Security says, "Oh, by the way, we got to give you a number so we can tax you."
Well, see,
so there are a number of issues tied into this.
Well, see, I'm saying the only way I think you're going to get people not to bitch is do it for free. That way, it's not a regressive tax. Because whether you admit it or not, an identification card that costs $35 is regressive, because it's going to cost poor people money.
The Texas voter law that went into effect after Article 5 was struck down by the Supreme Court requires no money.
Yeah, it's a free.
The voter card.
It's free.
See, I think that's the good way, and then somehow find a way to get these people's birth certificates. And you're going to have a problem with a certain segment of the society, but there's got to be a way to tie them to something.
I just find after the ongoing kerfuffle about the president being or not being, and the Donald Trump circus, I don't know that I find a birth certificate to be the litmus test.
Oh, well, you know what? It's over and done with now anyway. I don't, the hell with it.
See,
but
second term.
Everything, everything will, when he's finally out of office and a decade has gone by, who knows what we'll find out. But it's
and here's the issue: our buddy Ted Cruz was born in Canada to an American citizen mother,
right?
Which means he's a U.S. citizen,
right?
But technically, he wasn't born in the United States. Neither was John McCain. John McCain was born in, I think, the Panama Canal zone.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, if you get a cart for his Obama problems, everything I've read, half of the issues he's having now because of his so-called birth certificate is his problem that he caused. So
that in the second administration, and I will tell you, I think that Barack Obama is far from the best presidents that we've ever had in the history of this country. I also think he's far from the worst presidents we've ever had in this country.
I think
what will precipitate from his second administration is that he shot himself in the foot more than anybody else shot himself or shot him in the foot.
Well, I also find the president to be the least presidential of anybody we've ever had as a president. In many ways,
but others broke the thing about I like you. I don't think that Jay Leno and the Tonight Show is a place for the president. But Bill went on Arsenio Hall, and we have taken a lot of the elevation of being the president of the United States domestically and therein internationally over the last. I mean, when Carter started wearing jeans.
Yeah.
Reagan wore jeans. He was seen not dressed. But our whole society has become much more casual.
True.
I don't know if it was trickle down or trickle up.
Well, but the Bush administration, why they were in the Oval Office, everybody had to wear a suit and tie.
But don't forget, he's Obama.
But that's, and I don't know.
The tie's been waived.
Yeah, I don't know how all of a sudden we jump from that.
Well, if you're gonna wait, just one more thing. Don't forget, Obama's a different generation than previous presidents. Is it a generation thing where it's more a relaxed attitude. You know, that's not be a stuffy. That's, you know, is it?
Rob,
Can you be that?
Rob, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
in our generation, we didn't worry a whole lot about our tats showing.
No.
We went for a job interview. Now, Jonathan is correct. You know,
It's true.
and to a certain point, it does become, you know, how good are you at what you do, not what you look like.
Right. And that's true. But you know, for some reason, I feel that if you're going to be the number one man of a country, especially the greatest country in the world, I want you to be presidential. Now, what does that mean? I want you to represent the country at the finest level possible. Now, is the finest level possible tennis shoes and jeans? Okay.
I've
when
never
he's
seen
out,
the president in tennis shoes, but
well,
I don't.
he plays basketball. I think he plays some hoops every day with his guys, and so he's in tennis shoes.
But I think I've seen him on a Hawaii vacation. Oh, by the way,
Sure.
and I didn't get the chart. The two Bushes exceeded Obama's vacation days in office by huge percentages.
Oh, I don't believe that at all.
Wait,
I'm going to challenge your
Wait,
data.
wait, hold on. You talk about combined or individually? You got to just preference that.
Individually,
Fine, find me the data. I'll challenge it.
I'm sure you'll challenge it.
I'll challenge it. I won't. I
And
won't believe.
anymore, you know, here's across the board when we talk about this, because what we're talking about again has to come down to because Rob and I are looking at it and going, well, this doesn't seem equitable from the way that we did it before. It's changed. And Jonathan's going, well, it's a cultural thing, and he's a black man, and I'm not criticizing you, Jonathan.
Well,
One of the reasons I voted for Barack Obama in the first election was, I mean, I wasn't that old, but you know, I was looking 60 in the face. Now I've gone over the line, and I looked at that first election and I go, gosh, it really appears to me that this is the guy that the youth of America want. Maybe it's time to kind of pass the gauntlet.
Mhm.
You know,
I can
try
understand
and
that.
buy into the future.
Right.
And because, I mean, I'm not done. I still have plenty of things I'm going to do and accomplish, and you all gonna see me here on the. I should do that like a politician. You all are gonna see me here, live streaming motorsports and talking about
That's
that
right.
as it comes up, and that's something that I do. But I'm live streaming on the computer. Okay, why? Because Rob and I do this every week, and of course, right at the moment, send money.
Yes.
See, push
Please.
a $5, anything. You know, I've got to pay for my headset and camera on your dime. Send in $5, would you please? But the thing of it is, you know, I can perceive that we are on the crest of the wave. The change is coming. Now, I think that history will look back and say that you know, Barack Obama was on the crest of the wave of change. What that change ends up being has not come to, you know, just like you said, on the issue of firearms in California, there will probably be civil disobedience and legal demonstration that they've gone too far.
Yeah.
I'll since I actually know people my age and who voted for Obama, poor people.
I'm glad you do.
Well, here's the reason. I knew a lot of people that would crap on me for not voting for Obama. I don't care the fact he's not white. I don't really care. You can't white guilt me in anything. I just think his politics were as bad as deep as a kiddie pool. And I thought the same thing of Bush, and I thought the same thing of Clinton, and kind of the same thing of the previous Bush on that one. I think the problem with some of the younger generations is they're like, oh, it's something shiny, you can talk good. You know, we're at least George
Which I'm
Bush.
getting tired of.
Well,
Don't give me a speech. Give me some meat. man.
Yes.
Well, the thing-
exactly.
the
and,
thing- wait.
and that's what he's good for.
Well, the thing
he
I
gives
really-
the baubles and the shiny
The
stuff.
thing I liked about George W. Bush, and he had a lot of stuff I disagreed with, but he wasn't the most eloquent man. He got a lot of crap for it, but at least you'd see him. The photo ops you've seen would be him being in the field, shaking hands. You would at least see him doing things that you would expect. I don't like Obama just because it's kind of, you know, it's the silver-forked devil. He talks good, but you don't see him do anything to me that would...
Here's the thing, though. Because he is that first president of color that we have had, And we do have, I mean, for lack of a better word, we certainly have a portion of our population that dislikes him to the point of hate.
You think it's because of that he's not doing anything in the field?
He cannot socially interact in large public crowds because he would be dead.
You think it's that bad? Because
I
don't
know
he goes in the large crowds all the time.
Well, yeah, but
I understand. Actually,
wow,
John. Actually, that was one of my biggest concerns when he was elected the first time. I was scared to death that somebody was going to go use a gun.
There's still a chance
and there is still a chance.
It is a definite friction.
I am scared to death, but at the same time, they shot Kennedy, and he had nothing to do with being black.
Well,
so every and Gerald Ford, right? Jerry Ford, and then Reagan got shot, and it's white and white. So
Reagan got shot by a crazy.
Yeah,
me and the
Squeaky
Kennedys.
Fromm was pretty crazy too.
And a reason why.
As much as I hate to say it, if Barack Obama shot it, please don't be a white guy, because unfortunately,
he's all over this, by the way.
Because the fact he's a black guy, I do.
He's not a black guy.
Well,
I won't accept it.
Well, that's the way America looks at it. I don't give a crap about race, but somehow
my dog is a mixed breed. Why? Because he comes from two different type of dogs.
Yeah, which, by the way,
Obama's a mixed breed.
Yeah, that's not exactly great terminology
which is a very difficult thing to be in American society. To be
a
halfer is
really. I don't know anybody who cares.
Well, look.
Everybody.
Hold on. My point was why does he call himself a black guy? That was because he has. He's half white too. I want to hear him.
You know why?
I want to hear him say that he's half a white guy.
If he was really high yellow.
Yeah.
In other words, he's got African American features, and he's
does.
got lighter skin.
Yes, he does.
Not high yellow enough to pass. Oh God! I guess I'm getting myself a job in Kern County.
Well, I guess so. You just did it, buddy.
And also, he had a base to resonate with, and he and his people are some of the most brilliant politicians and electors, people that can get somebody elected that I've ever seen. By the way, I just want to add that George Herbert Walker Bush was probably, even though he was seen, Ike was seen on the golf course and golf togs and all that kind of stuff. But the last true statesman president that we had was George Herbert Walker Bush.
I agree.
I don't. I mean, it's kind of like you and I. I didn't agree with his politics much of the time, but I believed in him as a leader, as a bright man, as a man that man still writes letters to people that are still alive from World War II.
I know.
He's a heck of a human being.
He's still out there visiting, and he just went to. I mean, the guy's amazing. He jumps out of airplanes.
China,
and he's like 95 years old, isn't he? I mean, he's
in his late 80s if he's not 90 now.
And I was worried when his health was failing.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a good guy to have around.
Yes, he's I
and
really
I
like
also
him.
think Jimmy Carter has been extremely more effective post-presidency than he ever was.
No doubt about that one.
I was going to say, you're the first person I've ever heard say it's good to have Carter around.
Oh, no, it's good to have Carter not as president.
And he is the statesman. I mean, he's called in to verify elections to see that they were fair in these crazy Mideastern and African countries. Jimmy Carter suffered from the plight of being far too bright to be a president, and having no base in Washington.
Well, that was the problem. I think you hit the nail on the head right on that one. He was not an insider, so he didn't have the ability to get the job that he wanted done. And
likewise, Barack Obama, he had his not full congressional term. It's made it pretty obvious to me that he's had to fall back on Chicago politics, which are questionable at best.
Right.
And it's cost him dearly.
Yeah, it has. I don't think there's anybody we're all at a point where we can't wait for the next election. Is that pretty strange or what?
Well, and on that thing, I'm sure you heard what Reince Priebus said If they air a documentary on Hillary Clinton,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. And I'm going,
Yeah.
right, Rance, you're gonna turn down TV time.
Yeah, right.
All right, then you're gonna go to the base. And I think in that last election, if you talk to the numbers guys, the base ain't gonna get it done. So you better on the other side. And then when everybody said, well, but it's going to be produced by Fox Entertainment out at the lot on Pico Boulevard,
Right.
in West LA. My feeling about that is, and then Wiener, I know where whom is going to be in the campaign, and the Clintons came back and said, "Oh, really? We don't even know if we're running." I mean, that association. Well, that would be enough for me to say, Hill, you got enough problems on your own, and you've taken on a few more with some dead bodies that are coming along with you. I think there shouldn't be a mini-series on anybody that's running for president, because you know what? We'll get, excuse my French, it's Australian, we'll get in a shit fight over the documentaries rather than the reality and the content of their character and their ability to lead before we ever get to the stinking election.
Well, I have a question, and this is for, since you and my dad were around, I think when this was happened, is the Nixon-Kennedy debate. Is this a point where, because I think Barack Obama is the first president, matter of fact, the first politician that I remember that really played on social media, on television. I mean,
social media is a given because it wasn't around for Nixon.
Well, I mean, I just think he's the first president, even within the last 5 years or the last 10, that has taken advantage of the internet in general. I think. Well, do you think this is the next wave of it? Because like how Kennedy was the first, television.
I understand, but I don't know that I agree with that, because each one of them have advisors that have pushed. When social media has been available, they've used it. Now,
and the whole thing of it is in the Nixon-Kennedy debates, and you have to remember that Nixon had a larger popular vote than Jack Kennedy did. And they asked Joe Kennedy, and he goes, "I wasn't going to buy him a damn landslide." Yeah. In that infamous debate, number one, it was.
It came down to makeup.
Well, the lights in a TV studio in the 60s. I'm sitting here with a desk lamp pointed, and that's enough light to run this TV camera. Yeah. Back then, those things, Jonathan, on stage under the lights was probably in the 90s, right? And Nixon sweat. He looked horrible.
That's what did it. Yeah. Well, if you watch, you can go back on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Well, that was part of that.
Nixon's people got there. They had the air conditioning at 58 degrees.
Well, the other thing that happened is Kennedy said yes to makeup. Nixon said no. Right. Well, so Kennedy looked great. I mean, you go to YouTube and watch it. He looked great, sounded great. He won the debate. There was no doubt about it. But Nixon had that in the bag until that was on television.
Well, and the thing, and I know this will ruffle you around the edges, but Chris Matthews, who is a good historian and political guy, wrote a book.
He's left of Trotsky.
Wait a minute, he was Christopher Matthews. That's how long ago it was, about Kennedy and Nixon. And Kennedy and Nixon were bosom buddies. They were Navy buddies. Mm-hmm. They were very good friends up until the 1960 election. And when Nixon did not concede that he had lost, the election was that close, boys.
Right.
That ended the friendship between Nixon and Kennedy. But up to that point, even through the debates, they were good mates. They were good friends. As in politics, it used to be. I mean, even in crazy hippie conservative 1970s student politics at Santa Monica College, we would go after one another and do politics in the room.
Right.
But when politics was done, we'd go out to the green, camper van and or down to the Orr House or whatever it was and go hang out.
And that's not whorehouse, it's Orr House, guys.
AORHOUSE, right next to Buffalo Chips.
Right next to
Burgers in America.
Well, I think that's part of the issue is the fact that now the left and the right, which one is wrong or right, it has a different worldview. And
I think it comes on a whole. We are wrong.
I think we lost.
About what?
Well, I think
the process has degraded. I mean, we're going to see this when they come back. I mean, Ted Cruz is just hell bent on just break it. And one of the reasons one of the reasons that, for lack of anything, I'll call it the Republicans don't want Obamacare to go into effect is that by 2016, yeah, there'll be some problems and stuff like that, but people will begin to go, hey, this is okay.
You know what I really wish? If Obamacare is going to be so great, and I think we've agreed on this before. There's some good stuff. There's some good stuff in there, and I've talked about it. I have a big problem with the pre-existing condition clause that medical insurance companies throw you out of, and so that takes care of that. But what bothers me the most is how do our representatives not have to be part of the same pool? So here we have our representatives that have their own medical, and when you ask them, would you like to be on Obamacare, at least the few that I've seen on television would say no comment, or of course we don't want to be on Obamacare, we have our own. That bothers me. It always bothers me when our representatives can do something that you and I can't.
I'm with you. If it's universal health care in Australia, believe me, the Aussies, the Aussie government they're on the health care.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, and we spoke about this one time before. In the Australian system, which would mean in the British system in general, in the system in the Commonwealth, you can pay for it's like $100 a month. That kicks you up a notch, and you get slightly better service. You get more. You get a more
concierge style medicine, right?
Right,
mm-hmm.
Right. So that you do have. It does allow for discrimination or qualification through the price mechanism.
Right.
And I just had a friend who was in hospital in Australia, and they had the concierge. They had bought the additional cover. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, "Oh God, how much better is this than just going to hospital?"
Yeah.
But their system has been in effect for a very, very long time, and at the same time, I will tell you, when going to a doctor in Australia, it was like, the physicians. It was in his house.
Yeah.
It was, for an American, it was very non-clinical, non-sanitary kind of a deal. It was very, very different.
But back to my point, though, is still, and we could name many things where our electeds don't have to follow laws or regulations
Speeding
that you and I have to. And
actually, that's the diplomatic corps, John.
Yeah, no, that's actually not. But
I don't want to get into that one because. Anyway, my point is,
I followed Ronald Reagan down Sunset Boulevard, and they were speeding.
Yeah.
Of course, the CHP was in front and back of them, so
right.
It's been tough to give them a ticket.
It's tough, yeah. But it still bothers me that the people that vote on these things are not voting for things that affect them as well. And
even though we are in a republic, which is a direct or non-direct representative government of the people, it's a form of democracy. I still think, and I've said this many, many, many times before, we need to start approaching things democratically. If we are really a democratic society, and our rules and laws are that way, and democratic society means you got it, I got it, we all got it, right? And congressmen and the president,
everybody,
and teachers don't opt out of Social Security, and federal employees, CalSTRS, the state employees don't opt out of Social Security. We're all in the same pool. Somehow we've been, and again, this goes back to that issue of fairness, equity, and transparency. If it is truly a democracy, then some things have to be universal, don't they?
That's my opinion. So it's you know what? And we were talking about gun issues, and I know that our viewers like California stuff. So this we'll lead into this now because we're going to talk about the fact that if you're a legislator of any type, it seems to me that the gun laws don't apply to you. You're voting for things that are only going to affect law-abiding citizens, because we all know that criminals go to a gun store and give their ID and wait their 10 days and all of that. I mean, we just, all those felons out there do that. I'm going to just name a few bills that Governor Brown may or may not sign. My guess is if he stays party line, he's going to sign most of these, and some of them are absolutely atrocious.
And let me just interject.
Sure.
I always hope that Brown brings his Jesuit background and doesn't always go the party line, because the California Assembly and Senate and Congress being totally democratically controlled is a frightening thing in this state.
Yeah, it is, and I'm like you. I'm hoping. I know how brilliant Jerry Brown is.
Pretty bright guy.
I don't agree with him, but that doesn't take away my feeling that he is a very bright guy. I understand that, and so I am sitting here saying,
you and I both feel Jerry Brown has California's best interest at heart.
And you know what? I think he does.
Just not ours.
It's just not ours. Just not my opinion is which is the best interest. I'll give you a couple here that just unbelievable. One of them I really like. It's called SB 53. This is the ammunition permit and registration bill. Bans online and mail order ammunition sales to California residents. You have to buy an annual $50 permit, be fingerprinted in order to buy ammo in California. And so that means that if you are actually a citizen and you live in Nevada, but you come to California, you don't have to do any of this. And I love
my
it.
Australian friend that doesn't vote because he put on the voter roll. He lives in Anaheim.
Yeah. So I mean, how is this going to stop anything? I mean, it's just all you're going to do is you're going to make criminals out of law-abiding citizens, because nobody's going to follow this.
Well, but somebody, part of the motivation there is somebody that, well, there's an awful lot of gun owners and they have to buy ammunition, and we can charge $50 a head. It's that license fee thing, right? Yeah. Your money for nothing and your chicks for free. Yeah. So part of the motivation is here's $50 more that we can soak out of these guys after they buy the hunting license, after they buy.
Yeah, I know. So there's another one that's it, and here's the one that still seems to resonate all over the country is the amount of rounds in a magazine. This is going to criminalize possession of all magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, even those that were previously grandfathered in. If you had purchased a Glock Model 23 prior to January 1, 2000, you had a high-capacity magazine, anywhere from 13 to 17 rounds, depending on the model, and it's perfectly legal, and you can have it now as well. This bill puts it retroactive that you cannot have any high-capacity magazines, either handguns or rifles.
I disagree with that completely, because you have to grandfather it in. The fact of the matter is that if you say you can't have that, then if I've got the 100-shot magazine for my Ruger 1022, I got to go take it down to you.
Yeah.
And the problem is, no, I bought this years ago. It goes with my gun. It's my property. I think that you
right.
have to let the grandfathering in.
No, it is your property.
No,
and John's right. And what it's doing is it deprives you of your property without any kind of compensation.
Well, here's the thing.
Hey, I'm seriously upset, and it happens all the time, as you well know, with homeowner associations at condos, and now homeowner associations in the community.
Right.
I bought the frickin' house, and if I want to take the tree out of my backyard, I'm going to take it out of my backyard. I don't want to go to you and pay you and leave it up to that. That's not the democratic process to intercede on my private property ownership issue.
Yeah.
And when you grandfather in the magazines, the fact of the matter is, it probably will take 50 years for them to break, deteriorate, and whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
But you cannot,
or longer.
But it's the same time, you have to let that process happen. You can't go in and take people's legal personal property that they bought in good faith, and then changed the law and said, no, you can't have that.
Okay,
I don't think that's okay.
Here's kind of the youth view, the very cynic view of.
Hurry up, because I got a couple more I want to talk about.
We're in an elected oligarchy. They're not letting you. It's not your property. They just let you have it. So that's the cynical view of a lot of people my age. Is it's not really a republic. It's an elected oligarchy, pretty much.
Well, if it's an elected oligarchy, then it's not just the government; it's the corporations. I mean, it is a fascism looms in our future.
And everything
the difference between government and business are none.
When you got into the CC&R discussion, which came from left field, but I understand what you're talking about, that many people have in their homeowners associations, the answer to anybody who bitches about it is, when you signed your mortgage papers, you also signed the agreement that you know that we have CC&Rs.
Well, and and if you're in a condo, it impacts your mortgage, as you well know.
That's right. So here's another one that's pretty good. SB 374 bans all, get this one, bans all centerfire detachable magazines for rifles. Requires registration of current owners in order to keep them. This new ban will include commonly owned hunting and sporting rifles like the Remington Model 740, 7400, 750, and the Ruger Mini 14, which is specifically not an assault weapon, already in the California law, and including Springfield M1As. And so it's going to make all long guns that have detachable magazines of any kind, like all the hunting rifles I just named, they're all going to be now considered an assault weapon and have to be registered.
Do many, and you know much more about, I mean, a detachable magazine is sort of become the newer technology is and especially when you get semi-automatics.
Well,
I mean, you can have a spring-loaded the M1 carbine's got a detachable.
Correct.
I think that's ridiculous.
I mean, that's how stupid this bill is. I mean, it's, and then of course they want to make all California legal firearms to have an ability. Now, the way to own a California so-called assault rifle, you must not be able to remove the magazine with your fingers. You must use a tool. And a tool could be a bullet. Okay, you can use the tip of the button to push an indent and the magazine comes out. Well, now what they're trying to go for is that there can be no detachable magazines, that there's no way for you to remove it from the gun. How the hell do you load these things?
It either becomes a tubular magazine like we had with our first 22s.
Yeah, well, guess what else they're banning? Tubular magazines.
Well,
tubular magazines cannot hold.
Then it's a bunch of tight Birkenstockers that are just.
Welcome to California.
Yeah,
rights don't matter.
You cannot have tubular magazines on your 22 rifle that you've had that your grandfather bought in 1906.
On your Mossberg.
Yes, whatever it may be.
Your Ted Williams 22.
Can't hold more than 10. This is how far off this train has gone off the tracks here.
Well, and herein lies the rub. Yeah, just like, our split in rhetoric in Washington D.C. and the domination of the Democratic Party in California. And I will just tell you a quick story. I have a good friend that now lives in Santa Rosa. That lived in Bakersfield, and when I was in radio, he was the morning guy. And Stan's a great guy, funny, great morning guy. And every once in a while, he would do a bit, right? Mm. And the church ladies here in Bakersfield would call the radio station and go, Stan, that's not okay. So Stan would apologize, and he wouldn't do a bit for 6-8 weeks. And then he'd do a bit, and okay. I moved into the Santa Rosa radio market, and I got to Santa Rosa, and I thought, oh, okay, now the gloves are off. I can do anything I want to do. Wrong.
Yeah.
It made what supposedly was a conservative community. When you realize that when you give rampant and equal rights to everybody without control, it becomes minute special interests. And they will, and they're
right.
not people of without intellectual ability and skills, and you know as well as I do, they will come up with some nitpicking little prissy law or ordinance or whatever that suits their sensitivities.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And we've gone away from being a consensus. So everybody's got their issue and wants it heard.
But what we do is, there's no middle ground, right? We talked about this already. It seems to be, you look at these laws. Let's just take these, and this is just a few.
There's no
of
compromise.
them. There's no compromise. This is draconian. Because we have a democratic, totally controlled assembly situation. There is no ability to make a discussion about what should be good or bad, because these people are voting party lines strictly and getting them passed through. One of the ones, this will be the last one I'll talk about, and we'll do a 5-minute wrap-up.
And I know Darrell Steinberg, and he's a joke. Go ahead.
Yeah, no kidding. SB 293 will remove all currently rostered for sale handguns available in California if a bureaucrat, determines that a owner-authorized handgun is available for California. From that point on, no transfer of previously legal handguns will be allowed. Children will not be able to inherit their parents' handguns.
See,
here's
it's not
the
your property.
deal. Try and enforce it. Where are you going to come up unless we go to a total 1984 state? Try to enforce it.
And that's the problem.
Here.
Yeah, and you know what? Even our own sheriff here, he says, it's not in my county. So this is going to be very interesting to see what happens. And my hopes and wishes are in the hands of Jerry Brown, which scares the hell out of me.
Well, it scares the hell out of you, but I think that Jerry's reasonable enough to know that some of this stuff is just, it's very tight self-interest. The issue here is, again, I mean, it's California in a nutshell. We're going to come up with all of these bizarro regulations. As Tower of Power said, I committed a criminal act last night. She was on top. That's still illegal. But how are you going to enforce it? So why are we wasting our time, our money, our efforts, and our energies passing laws that are unenforceable?
What's going to happen, John, is that they're eroding our Fourth Amendment rights, with leaps and bounds here. They're going to make every excuse they can to be able to get your email, get your phone records, come into your home without a warrant,
that's
search
the only way
and
they
do
can
anything.
do it.
And that's,
I mean, and that from my idyllic point of view, and this is maybe your reference the last time to my blindness, I can't see it happening, because I don't see enough Americans saying, okay, I'll sign up to do that. Right?
Yeah, but the problem is don't have...
The people who believe
our
in gun
representatives
rights
are doing that for us. We don't have to do a damn thing. They're willing to just go ahead, and because, once again, they're going to say that, we're exempt from this, but you're not. You're a bad guy.
Well,
we know it. They automatically determine, when you talk to... There's some law enforcement in California, people that I've known, who said, you're a bad guy. I know you're a bad guy. And that means...
you're a bad guy.
Yeah. And that means that's the way they look at it. They so much of law enforcement is them versus us, and the mental attitude that goes with that. So nothing surprises me anymore. When we pass laws, but if Jerry signs these things, it'll be a perfect example. And either next week or the week after, you and I are going to be able to say, okay, Jerry, you either did right or you did wrong. And,
I hear you. And I will tell you that we have friends in common in the deepest reaches of Los Angeles that say to me, how can Rob be like that? And I'm going, well, does it change? No, he's the greatest guy in the world. If I wanted somebody fair and equitable, I go to Rob, but they just can't understand it. And that's to me, it comes down to the fact that, bottom line, who's going to pay for it? Tell me how you're going to enforce it. You can make this rule, but then tell me how it's going to be enforced.
You did it right, because it's an unfunded mandate. That's
Right.
what happens.
You know what's going to happen, right? It's going to be like in Russia. What they're going to do when you get in trouble, you're going to have all these things. Okay, so they found a 15-round magazine. They found all this. You're going to jail. Instead of trying to be innocent, you're going to talk yourself out of charges. You're still going to go to jail, but you just may not spend as much time.
And the only problem is that if they had as many enforcement, you know, can and you know this better than I, can the county sheriff function as a game warden? Does he have jurisdiction?
The
over,
sheriff?
has jurisdiction
Yes.
over firearms. Yeah, but because the sheriff's the law of the county.
Correct. Right.
He pretty much can do anything's in his venue.
That's right. He is the man in the county. Right. Just like our sheriff.
But in my county, unless you're smoking crack in the front seat and go through a red light, they're not going to write you a ticket.
Right. Well,
the red light's not important.
Yeah.
CHP handles that.
That's right. Road skunks.
But the issue again is, it's not. We got to get together and start thinking democratically and think about what we want, and we have certainly, and this is long before in the state of California, long before the Obama administration, we have retreated into our own individual camps.
Right.
But fighting over it rather than compromising over it is not the democratic process.
And we're going to have to leave you with that thought, John. I want to thank you. We're right at the hour mark, and we don't want to go over. So,
send
next
money.
Week, send money. Hit that donate button, please. And you know what we really like? I also like the fact that sometimes people email me with, hey, why don't you guys talk about this and other things? Do that. We want your opinion, and you can always call. No calls tonight, but that's okay. Hey, John, thank you for joining me tonight. Another good show. Jonathan Charney, thank you for all that you do, and thank you, folks, for watching the show. We'll see you next week. Bye.